Here's a number that's going to stop you cold. You need to earn about $160,000 a year just to qualify for a median home in Ventura County right now. Not to live comfortably, not to sleep well at night, just to qualify. And that's not even in a nice neighborhood. That's the county median. But here's what may surprise you. A lender will hand you the keys at $160,000, and most people have no idea that approval number and a survival number are two completely separate things. What I'm talking about is a gap of over $100,000 between what the bank will say yes to and what your life can actually handle. So we're going to go through all of it. The 28% rule, the debt to income trap, and the real cost of owning a home in California, because nobody's going to tell you this stuff at the closing table. All right, so let's start with the median house price. Right now, the median sales price in Ventura County is sitting at $899,000. That's your entry point into the market. That's not a dream home. That's not a view lot on a hill. That's the middle of the road. So let's do the math on what a real buyer has to do in order to get this home. You're putting 5% down on an $899,000 property. That's $45,000 out of pocket, and you're financing $854,000 at 6.5%. Your principal and interest payment on that loan come out to roughly $5,400 a month. And I know some of you just winced. Good, because we're not done. Now we're going to layer on California property tax. The state tax runs roughly 1.25 on the purchase price. So that's on the $899,000. So we're looking at around $11,200 a year in property taxes alone. That's another $937 a month every month without fail. Then you've got your homeowner's insurance. In Ventura County, the standard coverage on a home like this runs around $200 to $315 a month, and that's if we're not near hills or a canyon. Or maybe even a wildland zone. If your home backs up to brush, you're in one of those hillside tracks, and that number climbs fast. We'll get into more on that in a minute. And because we're putting down less than 20%, you're also going to have to carry PMI. That is private mortgage insurance. And that's not protecting you, that's protecting the lender. It's going to, and it's going to cost you somewhere between $300 to $400 a month until you hit that 20% equity value on your home. Add it all up, your PITI plus PMI on an $899,000 home lands you somewhere between $6,800 and $7,100 a month. That's your base number before you touch a single light switch. Now, here's where people really get caught. There's a rule called the 28% rule. Financial types love it. It says your total housing payment should never be more than 28% of your gross monthly income. So if your payment is $7,000 a month, you back calculate that into what your income should be. You need to be earning $300,000 a year to clear that bar of comfortability. But a lender doesn't care about this number. Lender doesn't care about the 28% rule at all. What they are looking into is the debt to income ratio. And most lenders will approve you as long as your total monthly debt load doesn't exceed 43 to 45% of your gross income. So if your credit is clean and you've got no other debt, a lender will say yes to this mortgage at around $165,000 a year. This is a $135,000 gap between what a bank will approve and what you actually need to not feel strangled every single month, right? That's a number that is huge, and you need to hold on to exactly what that means. So that's median. Now let's talk about where people actually want to live. Because when buyers come to me and they say, hey, I'm looking into Ventura County, they're usually picturing Camarillo, Moorpark, or Westlake Village. Good schools, clean streets, and some space. And those neighborhoods start at $1.2 million. And that's not the ceiling, that's the floor. Same framework, new numbers. 5% down on a $1.2 million home is $60,000. That means you're financing $1.14 million. And here's something important. Once you cross that $1 million threshold, that puts you into a whole nother territory on your conventional loan. You're in jumbo loan territory, which comes with its own rules, stricter qualifications, different rate structures, and lenders want to see so much stronger reserves before they even will say yes. Right now, a jumbo at around 7% puts you at principal and interest at roughly $7,600 a month. That's $2,200 more a month than that median house price. Property taxes also obviously go up because that 1.25 ratio on a $1.2 million property is nearly $15,000 a year. That's $1,250 a month above and beyond just in taxes. Now, insurance, this is where we talked about before, some of these properties can't even get standard coverage anymore. So what's your alternative? Well, your alternative is California Fair Plan plus a wraparound policy, two separate policies to just get the same coverage in a different area. That combination can run $4,000 to $7,000 a year or more. Even a standard policy in these zip codes is going to be $300 to $500 a month. So your total monthly nut on a $1.2 million home, but before you touch maintenance, runs $9,200 a month. And under the 28% rule, that means you need to have an income between $395,000 and $420,000 a year just to cover the bills without sweating. But a lender will approve you for this same home at $220,000 to $240,000, which sounds reasonable. $220,000 a year take home in California after state and federal taxes. We'll get you to this number in a second, and we're going to hit it differently than you think. Okay, so we've got your base payment now. Now let's talk about the number that actually breaks people, because this is the part nobody talks about all the way through when you're sitting at the open house. The standard rule is to set aside 1% of your home's value every single year for maintenance repairs. So what does that mean? Well, on an $899,000 home, that's roughly $9,000 a year, and that's about $750 a month, putting somewhere other than your normal bank account just to make sure you're taking care of maintenance. But California real estate professionals and most cost analysts are going to tell you a different number. This number is going to be a lot closer to 2%, especially on the older homes that have a lot more complex problems as they age. And a lot of Ventura County's housing stock qualifies. That pushes your maintenance reserve around $1,500 a month on a median priced home. And before you tell me you're not going to spend that much money, you're probably right. In any given month, but on average, if that AC dies, that is an $8,000 to $15,000 fix, depending on the system and the size of your house. If you have roof problems, you're looking at $15,000 to $25,000 minimum in the Southern California labor market, so it gets expensive. And if your home is or near a fire hazard zone, which covers a lot of Ventura County, defensible space is something that is not an option. It's annual clearing and ongoing brush management, and depending on where you are, potential home hardening costs that come back around every single year. Layering on top of that, California-specific costs that don't fit neatly into any mortgage calculator. Utility costs here are among the highest in the country. Water bills in a dry year are not to be trivialized. If you're going to cool your home through Moorpark and Camarillo in the summer, your electric bill in July and August is a real line item. None of that shows up in your debt-to-income ratio. And we're not even talking about commutes. Commutes add potentially $400 to $800 a month. So let's redo the monthly number with all of that in mind, okay? So on an $899,000 home, your true all-in costs land somewhere between $7,500 and $8,600 once you add in a realistic maintenance reserve and the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's the PITI. On the $1.2 million home, you're looking at $11,000 to $12,000 a month when you account for the higher insurance exposure and the same maintenance logic that applied to the less expensive home. Now hold that number up against your actual take-home pay, not your gross, your take-home. Someone earning $165,000 a year in California after state and federal taxes is clearing somewhere around the $9,500 a month. If your true housing cost is $7,500 a month, to $8,600 a month. That leaves you somewhere between $900 to $2,000 a month for food, gas, car payments, retirement contributions, and an emergency fund that most people never even get to think about. That's a trap. And a lender who approved you who isn't going to be around when the HVAC goes out in August. This is the house poor trap. You qualified, you closed, and now every unexpected expense is genuine crisis because the bank measured your debt, not your life. Before you ever sit down with a lender, write down what you actually spend every month. Be honest about your car payment, the student loans, the groceries, and what you want to put toward retirement. Then see what's left. That number tells you exactly the number that you should be getting approved on and will tell you exactly how much home you truly can afford. If the payment alone is more than the third of your take home, you're already in a dangerous territory before a single bill hits. That's the common sense gut check. If you want more real talk about buying in Ventura County, what neighborhoods pencil out, and what you're really going to be able to afford, subscribe and drop a comment below, and we'll look at what city is best for you.